Yo, what's good? Amateur Lore here, and today we're looking at some more historically terrible college football programs and the rare times that they have taken over the college football world. Feel free to comment some teams, topics, or just any ideas you have in general. Oh yeah, and before I forget, I got a 2025 college football season hot take video coming soon, so give me some of your hot takes if you want to be in the video. But yeah, these videos take a while to make, so a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. And with all that out of the way, let's jump right into the video. Okay, so I'm sure some of my viewers who have been watching me since the 22 Jump Street may be thinking to themselves, yo, Amateur Lore, didn't you cover the 2012 Kansas State Wildcats already? Well, yes and no. I actually only took a look at their star quarterback Colin Klein and really speed ran through their entire entry, not really taking too much time to give them and this year from the Kansas State Wildcats the flowers it deserved. So when I decided to make a video taking a look at historically bad college football programs, I made the executive decision to throw the 2012 K-State Wildcats in here. And yes, I said historically bad. I guess I have to explain that now. Okay, so really quick, yes, Kansas State is technically a historically bad college football program, sporting an all-time record of 579, 675, and 41, putting their all-time winning percentage at around .463, which puts them near the bottom 100 in all of college football when it comes to winning percentage. However, I do have to mention that the last 3 seasons from Kansas State have been incredibly solid, going 10-4 with the Big 12 title in 2022 and back-to-back 9-win seasons in 2023 and 2024. And I don't doubt that with the new 12-team playoff that they will be making that for the first time very soon. Alright, so now that I got that out of the way, let's take a look at one of the best teams in program history, the 2012 Kansas State Wildcats. Coming into the 2012 college football season, K-State had been building up some momentum over the previous 3 seasons, going 6-6 with no bowl game in 2009, 7-6 with the Pinstripe Bowl game lost in 2010, and finally in 2011 going 10-3 with the loss in the Cotton Bowl. K-State was improving each season under their new old head coach. Only thing that was left was a Big 12 title with potentially a BCS title run. Going back in time to 2012 and taking a look at some of the Big 12 Conference preseason predictions, according to BleacherReport.com, Kansas State was expected to finish 7th in the Big 12, behind teams such as Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas, West Virginia, and Oklahoma. I don't know, 7th just doesn't seem right to me. This squad won 10 games the previous season, and was returning one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. Their reasoning for that ranking was that 9 of the Wildcats' 13 games in 2011 were decided by a touchdown or less, and they were predicting Kansas State to not be so fortunate this time in close games. Which they were kind of right, as K-State would blow more teams out than not this year. That was a short little intro. Now let's take a look at some of the studs making noise throughout Manhattan this season. Leading the program in his 21st season up to that point at head coach is the Kansas State legend Bill Snyder. And all of those seasons were not consecutive because he would step down for a little in 2005, but his brilliance was needed, so he would return back in 2009. Coach Snyder had a well-balanced machine with this squad this year, as they would finish ranked in the top 30 on both offense and defense. Galloping over to the quarterback, this team was led by a literal transformer in Colin Klein, or Optimus Klein, who'd passed for 2,641 yards with 16 touchdowns, as well as rushing for just shy of a Ben with 23 touchdowns. Sliding over to the running back, we got John Hubert, who'd rushed for 947 yards with 15 touchdowns. And to round out the offense at receiver, we got a pair of pretty dynamic athletes, starting with Chris Harper, who'd catch 58 passes for 857 yards with 3 touchdowns, and Tyler Lockett catching 44 passes for 687 yards with 4 touchdowns. Before we hop into the season, there are a couple of defensive players that I want to shout out, starting with defensive end Masheek Williams, who'd finished the year with 10.5 sacks, as well as 3 defensive backs who'd all finished with 5 picks on the season exactly, being Alan Chapman, Nigel Malone, and Ty Zimmerman. The 22nd ranked Kansas State Wildcats would open up the 2012 college football season with 2 nice wins over Missouri State and Miami. Starting with the Bears, the Wildcats would take them down 51-9. I know that score looks like it was a dominating performance from the start of the game until the finish for the Wildcats, but in all reality, K-State would only be up 16-9 going into the 4th quarter. However, once that 4th quarter hit, Colin Klein and the offense would kick things into another gear, scoring 35 points to finish off the game strong. I'm going to chalk this slow start up to it being the first game of the season. We all know the first game of the year always has some of the worst football. Things would improve during their next game though against the Hurricanes, as the Wildcats would jump out to a 24-6 lead and finish the game off winning 52-13. Colin Klein was robotic from the pocket, tossing the little piggy around for 210 yards with 4 Teddy Roosevelts. While Optimus Klein did his thing, the Wildcats defense would do theirs too, holding the Canes at 262 yards of total offense as well as forcing 3 total turnovers. Don't ask me why, but K-State would catapult up in the rankings from the 21st spot up to the 15th after taking down 2 pretty below-average opponents. But it is what it is. I know the diehard K-State fans were not complaining. The 15th ranked Wildcats had one more game to get right before Big 12 play was set to start, and K-State had a juggernaut to open up conference play as they were traveling to Norman for a matchup with the 6th ranked Oklahoma Sooners. But whoa, we're not there yet. First, the tune-up game versus the North Texas Mean Green. North Texas vs Kansas State was a weird game to say the least, as oddly enough the Mean Green would own the box score, winning the turnover battle, finishing with more first downs and dominating the time of possession. And when you factor all of that in, it's no wonder K-State only held a 14-13 lead on the Mean Green with less than 4 minutes in the 3rd quarter. It's all good though, because the Wildcats would score not 1, not 2, but 3 straight TD banks, giving them a nice little cushion, eventually winning the game against North Texas 35-21. Optimus Klein was his usual self, using the all-spark to his advantage to pass for 230 yards with 3 total touchdowns. I also have to give a nice little shout out to wide receiver Tremaine Thompson. He was huge this game for Klein, catching 5 passes for 102 yards and a pair of tuds. K-State was now sitting with a record of 3-0 and a ranking still locked in at the 15th spot going into one of their biggest games of the season, a road matchup against the 6th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners. The Wildcats knew if they wanted to win the Big 12 and potentially make the BCS National Championship game, they were going to have to go through OU. You could say it was a rite of passage. For example, you don't make it out of the ACC without going through Clemson, you damn sure don't make it out of the SEC without going through Bama. And, well, at least back in 2010, you weren't making it out of the Big 12 without taking down the Bible Belt bullies. 15th ranked K-State versus 6th ranked OU. Let's go.
Going to play every time they hit the field. Persistent, relentless. Bill Snyder is going to wrench every ounce of effort and talent out of his team each and every week. And the guy that leads them
back deep for the Cats. Patrick O'Hara, the kickoff specialist, sends it away. And this on Landry Jones looking for Stills. And he has it at from 28 yards away. And good. Here's Jones under pressure now. Jones lost it, picked up, touchdown K-State. Jones fakes the draw, sets up over the middle. Not a lot of secrecy in what he's going to do. Oh, he fumbled it! And Kansas State has it. Hubert running left. And Hubert, watch out! At the 40. Hubert out of bounds. 2nd and 1. Play fake. Jones. Caught. McGuire. Bell running. Bell. Touchdown OU. Receivers right now. Play fake. Jones off his back foot. Picked off. Ty Zimmerman. Colin Klein, John Hubert in the backfield. He'll run it straight ahead and pick up the first down and more. Spins down. Hubert. Colin Klein wants to run it. Outside. Klein. Touchdown. K-State. If he tries to get out and run. Klein. Sideline. He's got his receiver. Thompson. First down. Drive for Kansas State. Hubert. Sooners have turned it over 3 times. Jones over the middle. Caught. The freshman dives. Downs in a row. Klein hesitates. Klein. First down Wildcats. Norman. And they're 34 seconds away from upsetting the Oklahoma Sooners.
should not have to take another snap.
Bob Stoops.
Kansas State would take down the 6th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners on the road 24-19. This matchup looked more like an SEC game to me when I was rewatching the highlights, as only one touchdown would be scored going into halftime, which was by the Wildcats, as they would take a 10-6 lead heading into the locker room. The Sooners would strike first around the 5-minute mark of the third quarter, capping off an 11-play, 88-yard drive that would end in a rushing touchdown from Blake Bell. Kansas State would stall out on the following drive, but when the Wildcats needed a big play, their defense would make one, picking off the Sooners' QB, and the offense would do the rest from there, punching it into the end zone to retake the lead. And once they retook that lead, they wouldn't relinquish it, defeating the Sooners 24-19. The Stars on K-State would find ways to contribute, with running back John Hubert rushing for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. And while Colin Klein wouldn't light up the box score, passing for 149 yards, rushing for another 79 with 2 total touchdowns, but where he really shined was in the clutch, as he would make big-time throws to extend drives and keep the defense honest, so they could run the football how they wanted to. Overall, an excellent win and performance from the Kansas State Wildcats. The huge win over OU would put the Wildcats' record on the season at 4-0 and would move them up in the polls to the 7th spot in the country, their highest ranking since 2003. K-State was rolling through the start of the 2012 season and building up some serious momentum, and would keep the momentum rolling, putting belt to ass on the Kansas Jayhawks, winning 56-16. The dynamic duo of Colin Klein and John Hubert would total 8 touchdowns, and I can't forget about the Wildcat defense. They'd force 5 turnovers and would make the Jayhawks quarterback night a living hell, as he'd finish the game with a lackluster QBR of 50. Alright, the 5-0 6th-ranked K-State Wildcats were looking amazing so far this season, but they would need to keep their foot on the gas if they wanted to win the Big 12 and possibly make the Natty, because there weren't any easy games on the Wildcats schedule for at least the next 4 weeks, as they'd be running through the Big 12 crucible with games on the road at Iowa State and the 13th ranked West Virginia Mountaineers, and back-to-back home games against 14th ranked Texas Tech and 24th ranked Oklahoma State. There wasn't any room for slip-ups or mistakes. With how tight the BCS race was going to most likely turn out this year, K-State would have to be perfect.
From the 2, Klein, patiently, into the end zone, Klein keeps it. Klein cuts it back, touchdown! Pressure's coming. Klein tucks it, gets to the outside. Klein, touchdown! Klein wants to throw it in the end zone. Touchdown, Kansas State! Klein, pump fake, over the middle. Caught, touchdown!
We see each and every week they do exactly that.
Here's Klein to throw over the middle. Caught again, touchdown. Here's Nagy.
Oh, that's right. Picked up. Williams sprinting. Make that child. Cuts it across. Touchdown, Kansas State.
At the 16. Touchdown, Wildcats. Line to run.
Octopus.
Continue with riding high, number 5 on the touchdown. Nagy.
Second and 8, and Collins can put it up.
Got a man open way downfield. Complete to Lockett. Lockett is... And there is the pitch. And Wilson, the lead blocker. There is the touchdown. Here is Tyler Lockett of Kansas State from the end zone. He's got an alley. Here comes Lockett. Look out. He can move. Touchdown. What? Had the flat screens out there, and they were all huddled around hoping that Pittsburgh could win it, but it was not to be. Picks off. Intercepted. Coming back is Chapman, just like a year ago. Flea flicker. Here's Klein. And it is complete to Harper. Harper still going. And he is finally out of bounds. Tailback. And he keeps it himself and dashes straight ahead. No doubt about this one.
Yes, sir. Kansas State was looking like a national title contender for sure during this 4-game stretch of conference play, starting with a 27-21 win over Iowa State. This game was an awkward one as the Wildcats would dominate the box score, outgaining the Cyclones as well as owning the time of possession battle. But Iowa State would consistently find ways to manufacture points, having a response every time K-State would put the ball in the end zone, being only down by 3 for a good portion of the fourth quarter. But K-State's defense would stiffen up for the rest of the fourth quarter, finishing the game off strong, winning 27-21. I don't know why, but that game versus Iowa State was the hardest game by far during this stretch. Actually, I do know why. It's Iowa State. They have to be one of the toughest teams to play in college football. That isn't like a big-time name brand. I swear, they upset and play so many close games against top 10 opponents. Something about the state of Iowa and top 10 teams visiting. Ugh. As I said earlier though, this game versus Cyclones was easily the toughest game during this stretch. As versus 13th ranked West Virginia, the Wildcats would put on a clinic, winning 55-14. Calvin Klein has nice clothes. Colin Klein will ball out this game, going 19 of 21 for 323 yards and 7 total touchdowns. Brody is lucky nobody called the cops for what he did with the football, because his fingerprints were all over the pigskin during this game. Next up was 14th ranked Texas Tech, and while this game was as tight as an N for the first 2 quarters, after halftime, K-State would open up the floodgates, outscoring the Red Raiders 42-14 in the second half, which goes without saying the Wildcats would win 55-24. And for the final game on this stretch, K-State would do much more of the same, winning comfortably against the 24th ranked Oklahoma State Pokes. The Wildcats would always have a comfortable lead during this game, although the Pokes would make a couple of attempts to make a comeback, but every time they would, the Wildcats would always quickly respond, winning 44-30. The defense was on one this game, forcing the Pokes to turn the ball over 5 times. And while the defense would do their thing, the offense and Colin Klein would hold down their side of the ball, totaling 481 yards and playing a clean game with 0 turnovers in the win. K-State was now sitting with the record of 9-0 on the season and would move up in the polls to the second spot in the country. The Wildcats were sitting in an amazing spot as their toughest stretch of the entire college football season was behind them. I don't think it was a stretch to say at this point in the season, Kansas State was a legit national title contender and almost guaranteed to take home the Big 12 title. Only having 3 games left against teams K-State should be able to handle, such as TCU, Baylor, and 18th ranked Texas. Maybe that Texas game would be a challenge, but TCU and Baylor should be light work, hopefully. Well, the matchup versus TCU would be light work, as the K-State defense would shut down the Horned Frogs' offense, keeping them out of the end zone until with less than a minute in the fourth quarter. It's a good thing the Wildcats defense came to play because the offense was a little sluggish throughout this game, only putting up 260 yards of total offense with 2 turnovers. But K-State would still come through with the dub, winning 23-10, putting their record on the season at 10-0 and setting up a magical BCS countdown show I'm sure the loyal fans of Kansas State will never forget.
Falls from 1 to 4. Now those two teams sitting best among the one-loss teams if we get to that scenario. Now, here's the spot. The 3 undefeated teams, of course, only 2 in the championship game. I think the primary drama is who's going to be left out. Most expecting that Kansas State is going to be number 1, and the Wildcats are. Bill Snyder's team with dates against Baylor and Texas left. That's all that's standing between them and a spot in the national championship game. First time the Wildcats have ever been number 1 in the BCS, and also ends the SEC's record 14-week span of sitting atop the BCS standing.
K-State would be ranked atop the BCS, having the honor of being the number 1 ranked team in the entire country. And the best part about being the top team in the country for the Wildcats was that they didn't need any outside factors to help them get into the national title game. That position was pretty much guaranteed as long as they could keep doing what they had done all season, win. K-State was heavy favorites in their final 2 games, being 10-point favorites on the road versus Baylor and nearly 11.5-point favorites at home in their final game of the regular season versus Texas. Being ranked number 1 in the country is awesome, and it's something every team strives for. But how does the hunter react when they're no longer chasing prey and they are the ones being chased?
It's running the football right now.
First down, play fake. Florence going to go deep. Got a man out there. Touchdown, Baylor. Drive of the ball game for the number 1 team in the country. Klein to throw. Double pumps, goes to the goal line. Touchdown. Terrell Miller. 8-yard strike. And we're up to the yard line. And now it's going to be Florence who's going to keep it. Following his tailback and heading to the end zone. Touchdown, Baylor. Position. Blitz coming. Florence throws to the end zone. Touchdown. Klein, plenty of time, starting to run out of it, completes it on a crossing route, but Tannehill, Cat 2. Martin is in. Now the ball is out again, but it's a touchdown. And they're going to. Klein, there's the slant, there's the touchdown to Chris Harper. Or at least keep driving here to open the 3rd quarter. Klein, plenty of time, down the middle, intercepted. Picked off in the secondary, and the Bears are going the other way with Sam Hall. Glasgow Martin in the backfield now. He's going to get the carry straight ahead. Touchdown, Bears. Florence is under center. Play fake, pump fake, and the throw's intercepted at the goal line. Out of bounds at the 1. Klein, touchdown, Kansas State. Now they try to stop a 3rd and 16. Klein, troubled again. Down he goes. He's done a great job against the number 1 team in the country. Florence going long. Man's there. Caught. The tight end's on a wing there. He's going to be a blocker. Now he gets out of the way, and here's going to be a Baylor touchdown. Colin Klein going to go to the end zone. Intercepted in the end zone. And
15 rushing touchdowns this year. He's got 16 rushing touchdowns this year. They're going to toss it to him. Hubert, he's in. Touchdown. Play action. Klein loads. Deep ball. Got a man there. Got him. Lockett. Touchdown. They will. Same toss. And Hubert walks in. Touchdown. And Mac's team's going to drop to 8-4. And here comes the purple aid. The Wildcat juice. Congratulations to Kansas State. They're going to the BCS. And they are 11-1. There's 2 good friends at midfield.
Damn you, Baylor, damn you. This is now the 4th time off the top I can remember Baylor making the team I'm covering for a video season-ending heartbreak. As we all saw, Kansas State would get outplayed, losing to the Baylor Bears 52-24. This game was just one of those games. From the start to the finish, Baylor's crowd and the players on the field would bring the energy. While on the flip side, K-State just looked flat and kind of out of it. The Wildcats' defense that had been so reliable all season would get diced up, giving up a total of 580 yards and not being able to keep the Bears out of the end zone. When you're a team whose passing game complements your rushing attack like K-State's does, being forced to pass the rock 50 times in one game because you start the game being down a couple of scores just isn't a recipe for success for this particular team. Evident in Colin Klein's 3 interceptions thrown, and the Kansas State Wildcats team as a whole only rushing for 76 yards, which was one of their lowest totals on the season. This loss would obviously have huge ramifications on the Kansas State football season, bringing their record on the season to 10-1, and the rankings in the polls would move down to the 6th spot in the country. And while that is ass and really sucks, we're at least going to end the 2012 regular season for the K-State Wildcats on a positive note, as they'd clinched the Big 12 title by coming back home and taking down the 18th ranked Texas Longhorns 42-24, bringing the Big 12 title back to Kansas State for the second time in program history up to that point, as they would obviously win it again later in 2022. So since the Wildcats had come up just short of a perfect season in 2012, they would be missing out on the Natty and have to settle for a BCS Bowl game, where they'd be set to match up versus another team who was in a very similar position to them, the Oregon Ducks, in the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. And while Kansas State would lose 35-17, finishing their season with an 11-2 record, and I know when you're as close to making the championship as they were, anything else is pretty much a bust, but still, what an incredible season from this historically terrible college football program. Bet. So leaving the state of Kansas, we head over to the West Coast for the next team up, the Washington State Cougars. I don't think anybody's going to argue with me when I call Washington State a historically terrible football team, as they have an all-time record of 584 wins with 587 losses and 45 ties, which according to Winsipedia, an excellent football database website I recommend you check out if you're into numbers, puts the Cougars at 97th out of 135 Division I FBS football programs when it comes to winning percentage. So if you were wondering why I threw Kansas State or even Washington State into this video, that's why. Alright, so with my reasoning for tossing the Cougars into this video out of the way, I'm sure you're all wondering, which Washington State squad are we going to be taking a look at today? And while the 2018 team would have been a good choice, they were literally the first team I ever covered on this channel like 8 months ago, so that's out of the window. However, if we go back to the early 2000s, there are 3 pretty elite Cougar teams to choose from. As in 2003, they would go 10-3 with the Holiday Bowl win, finishing in the AP Top 10, and in 2001, Washington State would shock the world going 10-2 with the Sun Bowl win and another Top 10 finish. While both of these seasons are incredible in their own right, I had to go with the season in the Malcolm in the Middle, their 2002 campaign, where believe it or not, Washington State would be 1 spot away from making the national championship game. Coming into the 2002 college football season, I'm going to say something really weird, but hear me out. Washington State had huge expectations. Literally never thought I'd be saying those words out of my mouth, but I'm all for it. Washington State had been trying to reach the Rose Bowl once again for the last 5 years, making it in 1997 when they'd go 10-2, losing to Michigan in the granddaddy of them all. But after that season, they'd fall off for a couple of years, going 3-8 in 1998, 3-9 in 1999, and 4-7 in 2000. 2001 would see a huge improvement, as mentioned earlier, winning 10 games and finishing off the year with the Sun Bowl victory against the Purdue Boilermakers. Which leads us up to the 2002 college football season, where the Cougars would actually begin the season ranked at the 12th spot in the country, which would be their highest AP preseason ranking in program history. It wasn't just the AP that was high on Washington State, as going back in time and looking through some of the Pac-12 preseason predictions I could find, according to Stats.com, the Cougars were expected to finish second in the Pac-10 this season. And this is a side note, but this website takes like predictions from other outlets and finds a median score. I say this because I want to mention that outlets such as Sporting News, College News, and Blue Ribbon Sports had the Cougars finishing first in the Pac-12 this year, which just shows how hyped up the squad was this year. That was a little intro, so now let's take a look at the dudes ringing bells in Pullman. Leading the program in his 13th year up to that point, we got Mike Price, and I do this every video, but Cougar fans, let me know down below, is he the best coach in program history? Moving over to the man behind center, at QB we got Jason Gesser, who'd passed for 3,408 yards with 28 touchdowns. These stats were good enough for him to finish 7th in Heisman voting. At running back, the team leader was Jermaine Green, rushing for 829 yards with 14 tutties. And finally, to round out the offense at wide receiver, Jerome Riley, catching 57 passes for 939 yards with 7 touchdowns. I want to shout out 2 players on this Washington State defense before we jump into the college football season, starting with cornerback Marcus Trufant, who finished the season with 3 picks, and DB Jason David, who'd lead the Pac-10 in interceptions with 7. The 12th ranked Washington State Huskies would begin the 2002 college football season with 2 tune-up games versus Nevada and Idaho. I called these 2 early season games little tune-ups because the Cougars had a huge non-conference game in week 3 on the road at the 6th ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. But first, the tune-up games, which Washington State would win pretty comfortably, taking down Nevada 31-7 and Idaho 49-14. Quarterback Jason Gesser had a nice start to the season, passing for 242 yards and a touchdown versus the Wolfpack and 220 yards and 3 touchdowns versus the Vandals. 2-0 and ranked 10th in the country, it was time for the Washington State Cougars to take a trip to the Horseshoe to face off against the 6th ranked Ohio State Buckeyes in a huge non-conference game to begin the season. Both of these teams had natty hopes, and it would all begin with this crucial matchup.
So it is the Pac-10 against the Big Ten.
Hit on the release, gets underneath the gamble.
Room sees that the kicker's ready.
Blasts it into that breeze to put the Buckeyes ahead 3-0.
Played Nevada in their opener in Seattle, then they beat Idaho.
Here comes a screen, beautifully set up by Gesser. What a brilliant screen play that was. And Smith, the touchdown. Darling up over the top.
They were blitzing.
And
they hit it with the run, and that's the backup, Lydell Ross, and he's off for the races.
Ball's gone.
He did just that. So it really nailed him as far as scoring position. Now lobs wide open. First down as guess Drew Dunning, and it's Buckeye football. First and 10 inside the 5, and here it comes. End zone touchdown. Now I can say it.
Goes back deep.
Bad snap. Out of the end zone, safety. Tack on 2. Inside, fake, Prinzel, dashes free, 5, end zone, touch, out at the 1.
First and goal. Guess who's back?
Touchdown, Maurice Clarett. His second touchdown of the game. A freshman growing up right in front of us.
Washington State versus Ohio State would start off with both defenses standing tall, with the points in the first 2 quarters of the game being limited to just a total of 13. Surprisingly, the Cougars would be the team leading heading into halftime, although it would only be by a measly point, with the score being 7-6. The second half would be an entirely different story, with Ohio State owning the ground game and time of possession battle. Ohio State's running back Maurice Clarett would do the Washington State defense like I do my car brakes, wearing them down until they just couldn't offer any more resistance. Rushing for 230 yards with 2 touchdowns, averaging 7.4 yards per carry. When you've got a guy nearly rushing for a first down every time he touches the ball, you're going to have a hard time winning the game. And the Cougars learned that the hard way, losing 25-7. Losing sucks, but in hindsight, if there was any game Washington State was allowed to lose, it was this one, as this Ohio State squad would go on to eventually win the national championship game later on during this season against Miami in a classic. Now sitting with the record of 2-1 and moving down in the latest polls to the 16th spot in the country, the Cougars were getting a chance to play against some lower competition before starting the grind that is Pac-10 play with the game versus Montana State. Washington State would handle business, winning 45-28 with the entire offense as a whole playing better, especially running back Jermaine Green, rushing for 123 yards with 3 total touchdowns. With all the non-conference games on the season out of the way, it was time to begin conference play, and the first game up on the Cougars' schedule was the Cal Golden Bears. I wasn't able to find this game's full highlights, but thankfully some college football super freak uploaded the second quarter, so we'll take a look at that and then go from there.
Ingber, stutter stepping, leaning, drives into the end zone for the score. Offensively. Into the flat for Lundy, touch. Holder all day, wide open man, touchdown, the tight end, Swoboda. Is the holder. Tyler Hunt, the snapper, 42-yard attempt. Distance again is plenty good, and he puts it through.
For a while, it looked like maybe Washington State would be on upset alert, as heading into the locker room, California would be leading 21-9. Head coach Mike Price must have really ripped his squad a new one, because coming out of halftime, the Cougars would kick things into another gear, scoring 22 straight points to retake the lead 31-21. Cal would strike back quickly, retaking the lead, but Washington State would close out the third quarter with a 31-yard passing touchdown, taking the lead and not giving it up for the rest of the ball game, surviving upset alert 48-38. Quarterback Jason Gesser would put together one of his best performances of the season, passing for 431 yards with 4 touchdowns, playing a huge role in this comeback win. This win was huge because the Cougars couldn't afford to lose any games against weaker Pac-10 competition if they wanted to have any shot at competing for a Pac-12 title, especially with how tight the race this year was looking to turn out. And I'm guessing the AP wasn't too big of a fan of how sluggish Washington State would look in their game versus Cal, because they dropped a spot in the AP polls from the 16th to the 17th. However, it wasn't all bad, because Washington State would have a chance to really make a statement to the college football world and gain some favor with the members over at the Associated Press in their next game on the season, as they would be hosting the 18th ranked USC Trojans. Please don't let the Trojans being ranked 18th fool you. This team would finish the 2002 season 11-2. It would be ranked 4th in the final AP poll. Also, to add on top of that, the 2002 Heisman Trophy winner, Carson Palmer, was leading the squad. I'm saying all this because while on paper, USC was ranked 18th in the country, in all reality, this was a top 5 squad in the country. Their ranking just didn't reflect that at the time they were playing the Cougars. Washington State was going to have their hands full hosting the powerhouse USC Trojans, but after battling with Ohio State already earlier in the season, this Cougar squad was more than ready for another big test.
A beautiful Saturday afternoon on the Palouse brings a homecoming crowd into Martin Stadium to watch a battle for a share of first place in the Pac-10 football race. On second down, McCullough bouncing off of his own lineman and finds a hole. Wants another tackle and goal from the 6. McCullough again, he'll have to watch somebody takes it all the way in. Chest mask between Pete Carroll, Mike Price. Tippins back in, breaking through a tackle into USC territory. Inside. Distance is plenty good, and pops it through. A lot for Bush, long, touchdown right. They throw underneath. Wide open is McKenzie, and he'll take it into the end zone. Backfield here in the third quarter, and he'll take the carry. Good kick out block for him around the right side. Got a defender off balance. Green has the sideline. Needs a couple blocks to go. Got one. Darling blocking downfield for him. Jermaine Green on the ground. Touchdown, Cougar. Closing in on 200 rushing now. Gesser looks over the middle to Yettleman. Inside the 20. On his feet still. Stretch for half. With time open, Darling. Touchdown, Washington State.
First time we've seen him, he comes on a delayed blitz.
Has time looking into double coverage. Intercepted. Picked off by Southern California. They'll have the ball out near midfield on the grab. Home safe, trying to find someone looking deep over the middle. Two Cougars are there. It is caught by Williams for the touchdown. Breakdown. USC just rushing forward. Gesser trying for Sammy Moore. He's clear. Makes the catch inside the 25 and falls down there. 2 minutes. Low line drive. Got it through. 6 DBs for the Cougars. Watch the wingman again. They're going to run it with Vargas. Nowhere to go. Dropped by Long. He's got distance. Pushes it wide. It's away. Ball game. Washington State in overtime. Gunning nails it, and the Cougars win over USC in Pullman for the first time since 1986.
Wow, this game was a banger. I always love it when I do these videos and I have to go back and rewatch the highlights because USC vs Washington State did not disappoint. The offenses during this game were flying, finishing the matchup with just under 1,000 total yards. Washington State's quarterback Jason Gesser was tearing up the Trojans' defense from the hot pocket, passing for 315 yards with 2 touchdowns. And that clutch throw late in the game where he stood in the pocket while he took a huge hit, tossing a dart across the middle of the field was nasty, which would set his team up in field goal range where they would eventually kick the field goal, sending the game into overtime. And from there, the rest was history as the Washington State defense would do their job in overtime, securing the win against 18th ranked USC 30-27, which would be the first time the Cougars took down USC at home since 1986. This win against USC would bring the Cougars' record on the season to 5-1, and their rankings in the latest polls would move all the way up to the 12th spot in the country. It seemed like Washington State had shaken off that early loss on the season to Ohio State. Now riding a 3-game winning streak, the Cougars would extend that to 5 with the win against Stanford 36-11 and Arizona 21-13. These next 2 games on the Washington State football schedule were big ones, as they'd be matching up versus 16th ranked Arizona State and 15th ranked Oregon. Now, while both of these Pac-10 games would be extremely tough for the Cougars to win, they did have the benefit of having both of these games at home. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to find either of these matchups highlights. But don't worry, I still have a couple more games from the 2002 season to show. Just not these two. Which kind of sucks, but what are you going to do? There's only so much footage from around this time. Anyway, the Cougars would survive both of these top 16 conference matchups, starting with the game versus Sun Devils. This game was dominated by the Cougars as they'd easily win 44-22. The Washington State defense had the Arizona State offense playing on Hall of Fame difficulty, not being able to put the ball in the end zone until the 4th quarter, but at this point in the game, the Cougars' victory was all but guaranteed. Oregon would offer a little more resistance, as going into halftime, Washington State would only be holding on to a 17-14 lead. And coming out into the second half, Oregon would take the lead after picking off quarterback Jason Gesser for a 26-yard touchdown. For the rest of the third quarter, both defenses would shut each other down, until with about less than a minute left in the quarter, the Cougars would kick a field goal to retake the lead. Remember quarterback Jason Gesser? Yeah, he was locked in during the 4th quarter, tossing 2 tuds to close out the game and help secure the big win for Wazoo, winning 33-21. I know I said Jason Gesser was locked in during the 4th, well, he was actually locked in the whole game, passing for 277 yards and 4 touchdowns. And while these stats are amazing, I have to give the MVP of this game to running back Jermaine Green, who rushed for 180 yards, averaging 7.2 yards per carry. His contribution to this win cannot be understated. Now sitting with the record of 9-1 on the season, and their ranking in the latest polls moving all the way up to the 3rd spot in the country, their highest ranking in program history, the Cougars were sitting pretty in about every possible race, minus the BCS Natty race. Because no matter what they did to finish out the season, the 1 and 2 spot were locked down by the Buckeyes and Hurricanes. But there was still a lot to play for, such as winning the Pac-10 and making the Rose Bowl, but this time winning it. With only 2 games left on the schedule, there was 2 teams standing in the way of Washington State reaching brand new heights. Their rivals, the Washington Huskies in the Apple Cup and UCLA. Could the Cougars close out their 2002 regular season with 2 wins?
I think he is over that center. Quarterback sneak. Pickett drives. They give it to him. Here's the Cougars with a 1st and goal at the 2. They'll run it. Jermaine Green, touchdown. Gesser changes the play. Blitz is on. Gesser going deep. The catch is made by Sammy Moore, and he will go the distance.
They're going after this.
And they are. And he drops the football. That just pooches it through. A flag will be called. It is third down, goal to go. Keegle will hand off to Tippins, and you bet they are trying for the field goal. They just
football, the great ones are playing both ways.
Dunning from 22. Henderson to hold. Good.
Game, no huddle, because right now they're moving the ball like they have the whole game.
Pickett going deep. Reggie Williams. Oh, what a catch by Reggie Williams at the 15.
Huge.
By the 10. Pickett fires, and it is a touchdown. It's one timeout left. Keegle will throw, and loops it left side. Intercepted. The freshman Nate Robinson. It is good. And this game is tied.
And the kicker was about this distance as well.
Anderson has it up. And he nails it.
Here it is for the game. For the Huskies, at least to stay in the game.
Henderson to hold. It is up. It is good. Got it. He hits it long enough.
Got it.
It is good.
10 yards.
He's made 6 from 50 plus in his career, and he hammers this one long enough. And it is good from 49. Jason Gesser, and he will throw it, and it is intercepted. Game over. Is that an incompletion?
Ruling on the field because it was a backward pass. Washington recovered that backwards pass, and the game is over.
And he's throwing. He's got Darling. Touchdown. Out of the shotgun, Gesser. With time, lets it go down the middle. Touchdown.
And brought this team to a different level. And Matt will get his opportunity next year. And I'm really happy for him.
All right, big play, Keith. Back up to you.
Green breaking free, running down the sidelines at one man with a chance to get in. They don't get in. They're no for Homer, Washington. Pressure, they block it. It's rolling around on the ground, and they fight for it down at the 15-yard line. Tippins, touchdown. So they blocked the kick.
Damn, even in 2002, it seems like the Washington Huskies still own Washington State in the Apple Cup rivalry, winning against the Cougars in triple overtime 29-26. There is a big caveat though. The Cougars star quarterback Jason Gesser would get knocked out of the game in the fourth quarter after receiving an injured right shin. And at that point, it seemed like the momentum of the game had already swung, as Washington would be down by 10 with less than 4 minutes in the ballgame, and they somehow found a way to tie the game, sending it into overtime. After a game of field goal horse, the Huskies would be the last one standing, taking down Washington State 29-26. Tough loss, especially against your rivals, but in the end, the Cougars could afford this loss as they were gunning for another Rose Bowl appearance, and their chances of that wouldn't change much, especially after taking down the UCLA Bruins 48-27 the following week to put their final record on the season at 10-2, and their rankings in the latest polls at the 7th spot in the country. With the regular season behind them, and since the Cougars finished Pac-12 conference play this year with a record of 7-1, they would earn a share of the Pac-10 title with USC, and their reward for this magical season would be a date in the Rose Bowl against the 8th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners. Could Washington State finish off this incredible season with a win in the granddaddy of them all?
ABC Sports proudly presents Game 1 in our exclusive coverage of the Bowl Championship Series.
Was defense. Third down. Fires back, complete, and it is Riley at the 30, 25. Markers. They get them in position. And they say, ready, go, fires, grab, picked off. They go 3 wide.
Ball go!
It's a touchdown. Have plenty of time. Fielded at midfield. 1 to beat. Bosler. Put it on the board, folks. OU has just scored again. Mark. He'll be working against this. Now for the Sooners on 3rd down. On the run, fires, touchdown in the corner with the Ducks. 2nd down. Hit on the release. Riley again free. trying to keep the streak alive. Touchdown. They come back next year. Technical manager Mark Towie and Christy Brady, the production manager, and celebrating. Going up there and participating, and I'm sure that Bill Doba will just continue with it.
14 years of a labor of love, and he's turned it into a program that can win.
Here comes Moore, racing for the end zone. Sammy Moore, 89-yard touchdown at the trophy. Home to Norman, Oklahoma, and he does it with style. The fireworks now going off on the far side of the field. So congratulations to the Sooners. And ABC Sports is online at ESPN.com. Keyword.